Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. North Korea is ready to enter the war. Chasiv is in danger. Military aid package from Netherlands. F-16 jets and financial aid from Norway. Ukraine and nuclear weapons. Drone attack stats and Russian losses in Ukraine. We have heard speculation that North Korea may send troops to fight in Ukraine on Russia's side. At first, of course, these were just presumptions. Then President Zelensky announced in Brussels that 10,000 were being prepared. Now we have confirmation from the head of Ukrainian intelligence, General Budanov. He told the publication The War Zone the following, quote, "They will be ready on November 1. We don't have the full picture right now." South Korean intelligence also confirmed this. In total, we have at least 3 official confirmations of Kim's plan to send his soldiers into the meat grinder in 2 weeks. Terrible news, but terrible in the sense that it's an icebreaker. In reality, 10,000 Koreans with no experience, let's assume how effective they can be. How well coordinated is their interaction with the Russians? What is their level of training and weapons? My bet as a non-military expert is that they won't make much of a difference on the scale of the entire front, but they can make a big difference on the scale of international politics. Again, against my will, I began studying international politics and military things with the start of the invasion in 2022. Now, after thousands of hours of study, I understand roughly how things are going around us. South Korea promises to make some decisions in response to such move. It will be interesting to see what the adherents of the de-escalation strategy will say. The fact that the forces of Russia, Belarus, Iran, North Korea, and an unknown number of mercenaries from Africa are already fighting against us, can this already be considered escalation? Now, let's imagine that we could destroy military airfields within a radius of 300 kilometers from the border and save thousands of lives if someone was more decisive. This is a rhetorical question. The real question is what to do with North Korea. Russian soldiers filmed this video at training ground where these same Koreans who so want to quickly become fertilizer for the Ukrainian soil allegedly train. I cut the sound, but in the original you can hear a young Russian soldier saying, "You can film them and there are millions of them here." Millions is an exaggeration, of course, but the very fact that North Korea is now saving such a great commander as Putin is already a plot for South Park. Thanks to the internet, OSINT researchers instantly found this place on the map. I always admire how people find the exact place on this planet by a piece of wood or a pole. As you can see, this is presumably a training ground in the Far East. The distance from the border with Ukraine is 9,000 kilometers or more than 5,600 miles. And here's the exact location of the filming. OSINTers found where the video was filmed by crooked pole. What can I say? We are following the developments, maintaining our fighting spirit. I finished this paragraph and sent more money for defense against the Koreans. I will leave a link to a large article by The War Zone under this video. Chasiv, a town in Donbas that the Russians have been trying to take for at least 6 months, is now in danger. The line of defense runs along a river channel, but the Russians have gradually begun to force it in small groups of 5 to 10 people, moving along taut ropes and then forming larger groups. The Russians are suffering huge losses in this area, but we're also losing our soldiers, unfortunately. There is a problem with the delivery of ammunition due to Russian FPV drones and shortage of weapons in this area. From interrogation of captives, we know that mainly Russian prisoners are used here, who do not have much choice. It's premature to say that Chasiv will soon fall, but we definitely need to strengthen this area, and I hope that the new packages of military aid from our partners we have been talking about this week will arrive in time, and this will help release some of tension around Chasiv. Fingers crossed. Continuing with the military aid theme, I am publishing a tweet by Nukes, Prime Minister of the Netherlands. Let me quote the messages on the X network tweet in the old-fashioned way. The Netherlands is allocating 271 million euros to supply artillery shells to Ukraine as a part of the Czech initiative organized by Czech President Petr Pavel. This is certainly very timely, and I really hope that these guys manage to deliver the ammunition on time, because you see how the Russians continue to push while the weather and the amount of meat allow. Mr. Hoff also called for the European defense industry to scale up further. Alas, gentlemen, we did not start this war, but we need to participate in the arms race to survive. Thank you, Netherlands, again and again. Norway announced that it would supply Ukraine with 6 F-16 aircraft and is discussing the issue of financing the production of weapons in Ukraine, following the example of how Denmark does it. In short, Denmark finances the production of weapons here to reduce the time and difficulties with the bureaucratic processes. In simple words, they give a budget for the production of Bogdan artillery systems and do not deal with the logistics and paperwork. Norway will also allocate 250 million euros to strengthen the Ukrainian energy system for the winter. This money will be used to restore the facilities destroyed by the Russians and build new ones, which will also have a certain level of protection, details not disclosed for security reasons. Thank you, Norway. It is great to see your continued support. Okay, Ukrainian nuclear weapons. Of course, the mere mention of this concept excited everyone. We quickly made tons of memes. Oh, I wish it was possible to translate the jokes with wordplay from Ukrainian to English, but it would take too long to explain. The Russians immediately spread the news that Ukraine was allegedly going to make a nuclear bomb in 2 weeks. Dmitry Medvedev, of course, could not miss such a chance to show off his intellect and declare that Ukraine is going to make a dirty bomb. Hello, old man, long time no see. Thanks to the German observer Julian Röpke, who stirred everyone up with his superficial analysis. This is why I do not say that I'm a military expert or analyst. Take everything I say as the point of view of a person who studies what is happening from within Ukrainian society. Always draw your own conclusions so as not to be led by the opinions of pseudo-experts. So what about nuclear weapons? Nothing. In 1994, these three guys, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, Russian President Boris Yeltsin, Ukrainian President Leonid Kravchuk, and British Prime Minister John Major, who for some reason everyone forgets in this story, signed the Budapest Memorandum. According to this agreement, Ukraine gives up all its nuclear weapons in exchange for what? Only 6 points. I quote them word for word as in the document. First, these countries reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine to respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of Ukraine. As you can see, Russia has sped on the first point. Second, reaffirm the obligation to refrain from threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of Ukraine, and that none of their weapons will ever be used against Ukraine except in self-defense or otherwise in accordance with the Charter of United Nations. Russia has also violated the second point, and what's more, Putin is now threatening us with the nuclear weapons and shelling us with the bombers that we gave them under this treaty. Come up with a more vile idea. Third, reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the CSCE Final Act to refrain from economic coercion designed to subordinate to their own interest the exercise by Ukraine of the rights inherent in its sovereignty and thus to secure advantages of any kind. The way Russians stole our gas and oil rigs, occupied lands and ports in Crimea and on the shores of the Sea of Azov, destroyed factories and committed a million more similar crimes make me say that this puts the third check mark on the list of violations. Fourth, provide assistance to Ukraine as non-nuclear weapons state if Ukraine should become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of a threat of aggression in which nuclear weapons are used. This is literally what our partners from this list, the USA and Britain, are doing now, providing assistance to Ukraine. Yes, Clinton insisted that we give up the weapons, but we gave them up ourselves. Clinton then commented that he regretted his decision, but what's done is done. I'm grateful to the UK and the States that they provide us with support as an object of a threat of aggression. Fifth, reaffirm their commitment not to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon state. I think there is no need to comment here. 6. Will consult in the event of situation arises which raises a question concerning these commitments. This is what happens every day. We're endlessly discussing this war, and honestly, I would like to see more bold decisions. Someone joked yesterday in the comments that Iran and North Korea are much more courageous and hopeful allies on the other side, because they are not afraid to supply weapons in huge quantities and send their soldiers to this war. Well, so no, unfortunately, we currently have no chance of getting nuclear weapons for protection and stopping Putin. However, I've heard an interesting theory that what we need now is not nuclear weapons, but a nuclear doctrine. A plan. Technically, maybe we could create a bomb and face the dilemma of what to do with it next. But in reality, it may turn out that outlining the very idea of creating a bomb can push someone to more decisive steps. I will leave a little ambiguity here. Think for yourself who this might affect. I'll say right away, not Russians. Last night in Kyiv and region, the air raid alarm lasted more than 14 hours. The Russians launched 135 drones at night. When I say drones, I mean large attack ones with more than 50 kilograms of TNT, not small FPVs at the front line, of which we shot down 80 and landed 44 with the help of electronic warfare, and 2 flew to Belarus, which is why Lukashenko raised the Air Force. How are things, Belarusians? Nothing worries you? The remaining 9 drones were shot down before lunch, and maybe they hit somewhere, but I have no information about any major damage. One of them was shot down in the middle of the night right over my house in Kyiv, and it was, as always, an unpleasant experience. I'll say this after the 1000th time sometime. I think, to hell with it, I'll go to bed, but then I remember that this is a real flying bomb and it can fly into my window. That's why at night we often hide behind 2 walls, and it's very annoying. Over the past day of the war, the Russian army lost another 1,530 soldiers. With such dynamics, these North Koreans will last for a week, considering that they have no combat experience, only participation in these endless parades in front of Kyiv, for which they hang themselves with medals, copying the old Soviet generals. Nevertheless, these are all soldiers, they have weapons, and these weapons kill people. We're also losing a lot of soldiers in this terrible war. I'll say for the 100th time, if Russia stops fighting, there will be no war. But if Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no Ukraine. So we continue to resist. If you want to support this channel, then link to a PayPal or subscription to Buy Me a Coffee will be below the video. Thank you to everyone who stays with us for the sake of freedom and survival. Take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow.